The Art and Times of the Guitar by Fredrick V. Grunsfeld, Chapter 8, The Guitar in America. Yes, we three were so happy, my wife, my guitar, and me, Big Bill Brunzi. There was one other guitar that shatters the wine cups of daybreak, the blues guitar of the American Negro. Though they may seem far removed from each other in geography and tradition, there is in fact a tenuous historical connection between the two. The West African Negroes who were brought to America in slave ships were accustomed to playing many of the same plucked instruments as the Moors north of the Sahara, as well as variants of the guitar and rebec introduced by Portuguese mariners as early as the 15th century. Instruments known locally as rebecan, ramki, ramakienjo, or ramaki. An 18th century French explorer, Francois Le Vaillant, describes an African raboquin as a triangular piece of board with 3 strings made of intestines, supported by a bridge, which may be stretched at pleasure by means of pegs. Like those of our instruments in Europe, it is indeed nothing else than a guitar with 3 strings. On American plantations, the African exiles were usually forbidden to play their tribal drums for fear of slave insurrections, but they were encouraged to go on making and playing their own stringed instruments. Thomas Jefferson writes of the slaves in his notes on Virginia. The instrument proper to them is the banjar, which they brought hither from Africa, and which is the original of the guitar, its chords, strings, being precisely the 4 lower chords of the guitar. This skin-covered gourd instrument was the West African bania, soon to become better known as the banjo, and henceforth indispensable to a dozen kinds of American music. Cindy got religion. She's had it once before, but when she hears my old banjo, she's the first one on the floor. Jefferson may have been correct in supposing a relationship between the banjo and the guitar, but one is certainly not descended from the other. According to the best available evidence, both are collateral descendants of the ancient lute. In America, where musical integration is a continuous process going back to colonial times, the banjo player from Africa meets the guitar player from Europe, and the result is that instruments as well as styles are exchanged. The white 49er goes off to California with the banjo on his knee, and the black singer, in music they are generally more gifted than the whites, Jefferson observed, addresses his cante hondo to the guitar. Sometimes I feel like nothing, sometimes throw it away. Then I get my guitar and play the blues all day. The history of a specifically American music begins precisely at the point where the European trained musician first becomes aware of the African trained musician and makes an attempt to imitate him. A typical case in point is that of the German oboist and bass player Gottlieb Gropner, who ran a music store in Boston during the 1790s and is generally credited with having written the first minstrel song. During a visit to Charleston, South Carolina, where he had been engaged to play an oboe concerto, Gropner happened to overhear a group of blacks singing to a banjo. Fascinated by the sound, he bought a banjo from them, learned to their delight how to play it, and jotted down some of their songs. After returning to Boston, he composed a vocal and banjo number, The Gay Negro Boy, which was inserted in a play called Orunoko, produced at the Federal Street Theater in December 1799. Since that time, virtually all the important European musicians who have come to America and been exposed to Negro folk music have responded to what George Washington Cable called the dark inspiration of the banjo's thump and thrum. When Antonin Dvorak taught composition in America during the 1890s, he declared unequivocally and with extraordinary intuition that the future of music in this country must be founded on what are called the Negro melodies. As early as the 1840s, the Viennese Parisian pianist and composer Henry Hertz had come to very much the same conclusion. Hertz, H-E-R-Z, writes in Mes Voyages en Amérique. The banjo is the favorite instrument of the Negroes in the United States, just as the marimba is of the Negroes in Brazil. It is a kind of guitar with a long neck, which gives out solemn, resonant, and harmonious notes. Negroes are very appreciative of music, and their souls are far from being closed to the beauties of poetry. A collection of their songs has been made, and a study of it reveals an uncommon tenderness and a rigorous observance of the laws of rhythm, that elemental core of all music, so well known to everyone and yet so difficult to explain. From time to time, while listening to Negro banjo players, I have pondered the mysterious law of rhythm, which seems to be a universal law, since rhythm is a coordinated movement, and movement is life, and life fills the universe.